Hello, this is Russell from
Tones of Evil.
and you're listening to Capes and Lunatics.
Hi, this is Phil, and I'm here to tell you all about the Capes and Lunatics Patreon. Don't miss out on our comic book creator interviews, including our monthly Chichester chats with comic book legend D.G. Chichester, superhero movie brackets in our search for the worst comic book movie of all time, and many, many more specials, all completely uncensored. Access starts for $3 a month, full video when you pledge $5 a month. Check out the link in our show notes or go to patreon.com/capesandlunatics. Hope to see you there.
This is Luca Perich, and you're listening to the Capes and Lunatics podcast.
Recording has started. You need to wait for the laser beams to start, because that's how you know the party is beginning. Hello, dear listeners and viewers on YouTube. Welcome to Superconnectivity. I'm your host, Charlie, the Professor Esser, and with me, as always, is the blue-eyed bomber from the Burger Pits.
Phil Man Perich, or Phil Podcast Perich. Take your pick.
You gotta pick a name, Phil.
Podcast.
Podcast! He's the king of podcasts because kids, what you're listening to now, this is pure artistry. Brought forth from the mind of Phil, made real by the will of Phil. He is podcasting. This is podcasting. Anyway, Philip, it's good to be back once again here with my delighted listeners and viewers, with you, Phil, Podcast Perich. There's a little show out right now. Last episode, we talked about that family-friendly favorite, Naomi. Over on HBO Max, there's a little less family-oriented fare going on with a little show called Peacemaker. And it's delightful. I'm going to say that right off the bat. It is delightful. It is delightful in its self-referential nature. And makes me, it makes you wonder if this is a show that reads for non-nerds. I'll be honest with you, because, Phil, there's a meme out there from The Office with, one of those, with the girl, I think it's Pam, where they're showing her the two pictures and she says, it's the same image.
Yes.
I am waiting for someone to do this with Drax and John Cena, and her just saying it's the same picture. Because you can't see them, Phil.
That wouldn't make sense. Why would they be showing her blank sheets of paper?
Exactly. That's the thing. It's like, from her perspective, it's just two blank sheets of paper. Yeah. No, well...
Or is he just so tired that no one knows?
Well, they didn't notice it. For what it's worth, for anyone who wants to say, oh, he can't really turn invisible, like, Star-Lord and Gamora didn't notice him until he started talking. Because it was like, yeah, he was there and he was moving so slowly, he had become invisible. Anyway, so this is interesting. We have our dear friend, Peacemaker, sort of rehabilitating in the hospital, and he is discharged. I don't know. I'm not quite sure. It is an intentionally surrealistic scene. Honestly, here's what I'm going to tell you, Phil. If ever DC is going to introduce Ambush Bug into the DCEU, this is the place to do it. But, they should do like a hardcore, rebooted Grim and Gritty Ambush Bug. They should do Ambush Bug Assassin to meet John Cena. I think that would be delightful. But in this episode, we do have John Cena, of course, leave the hospital, get into a cab. Oh, fair enough. Peacemaker. Chris, I forget his last name. It's just he's not John Cena. John Cena is the actor. The character is Peacemaker. But in this moment, he gets in the cab, has the cab drive off, and within this entire concept, like why the cabbie didn't really ask where to, didn't ask why this filthy, clearly mentally ill patient, if he had money to pay for this ride. Although I guess that's the thing. It's like he gets into the cab. He's thinking, okay, I have a lunatic in my backseat. I'm just going to do what he says. I'm going to try and get whatever I can out of this deal. But quite frankly, this guy's clearly crazy.
He got a helmet out of it.
He got a helmet. And honestly, I thought that was the neatest part. Although, that's a whole thing we'll discuss in a minute when we get to the father's house. But him getting into his trailer, which is painted red, white, and blue, of course. Which is not in keeping with the original Peacekeeper character. I just want to make a point here. He was not a Captain America pastiche. He was the Peacekeeper. He was much more in line with a Flag Smasher character.
Mm. Really,
the Flag Smasher is in his own way the Marvel pastiche of the Peacekeeper.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting aspect of that. But one of the things that what's his name? The director of it, James Gunn. James Gunn said that one of his inspirations for this was Reb Brown's Captain America.
Oh.
And what he actually said was, I loved Reb Brown's Captain America. He loved and because of course he's around my age. He grew up on this stuff. He's probably a little younger and handsomer than me. But he was saying, I really loved that, but I really wanted to know what would it be like if you did that, but it was really messed up. And it was basically, and the implication is he wanted to do a 1950s cap in the 1970s cap mold. Like, what if the 1970s cap completely lost it from the super soldier serum?
Yeah.
But it's interesting when we work with the Peacemaker, and we get this with the handler, who, spoilers, big reveal, is Amanda Waller's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
That, there's this vulnerability inside of him, which basically is presenting the Peacekeeper as something of a man-child. That he's this person who is like Frankenstein's monster. He's been built to be this creature, but his understanding of the world is still quite limited. And he is, even though he's a fully grown and fully cognizant adult human male, he is also this highly sheltered juvenile in his understanding of how human interactions work. He wants to keep peace, but he might not even know what peace is. He may confuse peace with quiet, as they say. And one of the most interesting aspects of this is him being called out by the janitor in the very first scene, where he makes the point, you're the racist guy.
I'm not racist. I kill as many white people.
I killed many, many white. But he said, yeah, but you're looking for trouble, and in your mind, that trouble has a brown skin tone. And I actually really liked the fact that he says, I'm going to try and kill more white people. Which is I'm going to try and be a little less trusting of white people so I can kill them more. And the guy's like, that's all I'm asking. I understand you're a sociopathic serial killer. I understand you're going to kill people because you think you're a superhero. I'm just asking that you try to be more dispassionate. And I think that's going to actually come back, because I do think he's going to kill his father by the end of this season.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Because his father is clearly a bad guy.
And racist, yeah. Racist.
Definitely.
Probably was a bad father, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you saw the whole thing when they're discussing, when he's talking about his time on Suicide Squad, and, please tell me you weren't killed by the rat guy. Yeah. And, and it is just this idea of this father who is so horrible.
Oh, yeah.
So cruel. And then again, where is the father getting all of the equipment?
Oh, yeah, that
Did
room.
the father build all this? Is he being funded by someone? Because now we got the helmets that do stuff.
Oh, yeah. Sonic Blast. And what if the father sold out his son to Waller?
All in the name of the good old USA,
Yeah.
And for what it's worth, he may be very easily manipulated,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What do you think of the opening sequence?
The opening...
The whole musical number?
That... I mean, it was amusing. Is that kind of trying to tell us, hey, don't take the show too seriously? We're not...
I mean, I think that is part of it. I think, what's funny is it reminds me a lot of the I don't know if you ever watch Be Positive. It's a CBS show. It's a comedy. It's changed a lot from season 1 to season 2. I think it's gonna just have a completely different arc every season. I don't know, but it also starts off with a big musical number like that. But what I found interesting, at least in the first episode, because I haven't seen the second episode yet, is that the guy who is the next door neighbor gets a shout out on that, as does the janitor. Now, maybe that's just because they're in that episode, so they got to be in that opening sequence, and there's going to be a new opening sequence every time. But it makes me wonder, are these people going to have more story to tell? And, in its own way, I guess it kind of reminds me a bit of the MODOK series, where he actually goes and tracks down his father, who was the founder of AIM, and he's, in a little suburban town. He's an old man, but he's like, yes, but I was actually the guy who conceived of all of this. I'm
an old man.
So, yeah, it's interesting. We got our metahuman in this, which isn't, which is, it's also this interesting thing, because one imagines that they didn't build this entire, 80s hair metal love den in the time it took, Either someone is planning next level stuff with this guy, which immediately asks the question why.
Yeah.
That they had as much as just maybe someone wants him dead and is utilizing some sort of a metahuman virus.
It seems like the trap was tailored to him, yeah, and it's so metahuman. That's what I was thinking. I was like, is she a metahuman, or is that some kind of alien life form? Perhaps did he have sex with an alien? Charlie, yes, sir.
She's something for sure. I mean, that's what we can say is she's something. She is something, and whatever it is, it ain't human. That kind of reminded me of that movie. What is that? Species, where the alien life form sleeps with the men and kills them and stuff. Yeah, and I can see that. I'm absolutely cool with that. But it just seemed like the creature was specifically attacking him.
Well, yeah.
It was there at that moment, and
maybe he was friends with Starro. Who knows?
Honestly, maybe. Oh man, that would have been a real great reveal. Is that she had a Starro on her the whole time? Wouldn't that be awesome?
Everyone would spend
Starro
10 minutes. You effed the starfish? What?
Oh yeah, that was weird. I don't know, and honestly, it kind of felt like not cool, man. First off, we already saw that joke on The Boys, and was actually made clear to not be real on The Boys.
Yeah.
And the idea that, and no, it's just the rumor that goes around about Aquaman. It's like, I don't know. But again, I guess it's that Naomi issue.
Well, they did that joke on the Harley Quinn animated series too, because they were saying something about Batman having sex with bats, and it's just like, no.
Well, no, but you could totally see that.
I know, but I'm just saying it's the same joke.
The man does run around in fetish gear, so, but no, it's like, that's the thing. It's like, and I don't know that, it's like, I can imagine lots of weird stories go around there about the superhero community, but it just seemed like a weird thing for him to throw in there. Like I said, it's one of those moments that take you a little out of the show, where it's doing a gag for a gag's sake. And it's like, don't ever do the gag just to do a gag. Do a gag because here's where a gag makes sense. You know, because for what it's worth, you can throw in any superhero there.
Don't do the bestiality joke unless it's intrinsic to the plot.
Well, for real, you know? I mean, that's the thing. It's, you can do a story, like, you know, and to be fair, Batman calls himself Batman, you know? And it's like Richard Gere didn't call himself, you know, Hamster Guy. So, and yet the legends persist, false as they are. So you can do something where, well, you know, he calls himself Batman because, but, you know, Aquaman just, I live in the water, that's why I'm Aquaman. I control fish, that's why I'm a magical superhero. But it's like, you know, it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing, and like I said, we already did it in The Boys. So there's no reason to rehash it here for any given reason. You know, you want it to make sense in context of the story. But anyway, that's one joke thrown off at the beginning. Honestly, the fact that he's a racist, or that he's killed more black people than white people, or brown people than white people, is a much better thing. And it probably true. And probably an honest, real thing to call the guy out on. And when you call him out on it, I think it makes sense that you pull it back and say, okay, I understand I've been wrong. Because I think that's going to be the arc of the series. It's about him realizing that, you know, I'm not going to be the person everyone wants me to be. I'm going to be a better human being than these things. I'm going to be better than the human being who just says, why don't we have sex just because, you know, I'm here and we can have sex, you know. And that is a good thing that he grows beyond that. Because as pointed out by Harcourt, you know, there's not a difference between him being a nice guy who wants to just have meaningless sex and the drunken rednecks who also wanted to put her into that role of meaningless sex object. Neither one is giving her real respect, and that's why she is sick of it. And as much as Peacekeeper is a man-child character and is innocent in his foolishness, he is still acting a fool. And he's still causing hurt when he does it. It's like when he calls the waitress Sweet Cheeks, and everyone at the table is like, you don't call someone Sweet Cheeks. And, you know, he's like, what? It's just, she has very pretty cheeks. And, which is also, within that entire concept, what does her appearance have to do with you speaking with her? This is a business transaction. Please be businesslike. You know, it's not too much to ask that you treat your servers in the business-like fashion in which they are presenting their work to you in.
Well, that's going to be the thing. His example probably growing up is probably just that dad, so that's probably how the dad
exactly.
talks to
And
people.
that dad we see him watching an Alex Jones pastiche.
Oh, yeah.
You know. I wonder if people believe in Superman in this universe. That's always that question, you know? Anyway. But, yeah, he fights and it was weird because, you know, when the eagle brings back the ferret at the end.
Oh, yeah.
Part of me thought, like, did he get the ferret from the woman? Was she in Was she inhabited by a ferret? But I don't think so.
I don't think.
I think it just, which honestly isn't, generally speaking, bald eagles do not like attack prey. They tend to be scavenger birds. Just saying, you know.
I think it's just, oh, you're my only friend.
Yeah, well, you know. It is what it is. And like I said, I get the idea that, you know, it's the eagle bringing something to him, but at the same time, it just didn't seem. I mean, well, of course, everything about the eagle's behavior is not proper for eagles, so maybe I shouldn't nitpick it so much because it is a TV show based on a comic book, based on something that James Gunn thought would be funny. Want to talk some comic books, Phil?
Yes.
Should we talk about the Superior Four?
Yes. We got a bunch of auto this week. Yeah.
Auto 616, the greatest of us all, and he's using the Forever Gate to find other autos. And this is what bothers me. Yes, they are all autos. They are Auto Banner, Auto Howlet, and Auto Blaze. And it's like, at what point are they autos, or are they these other guys who just happen to have been named Auto? And I guess you can say there's a quantum signature to him, but he really wants to be a Nexus being in this.
Mm-hmm.
And to be fair, it's very Nexus being, like, in the sense that we saw with Loki, of, you know, the idea that, no, all the Lokis can look different. But he wants to lead his team to defeat various things.
I love the throw he threw out. You know, he's like, you know, I evolved into the superior Spider-Man, but I allegedly made a deal with the devil to return to this baser form. You know, basically like, I would never make a deal with the devil. Come on.
Yeah, because, you know, although at the same time, you know, Auto Blaze says, no, that's a real thing you can do, dude.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think Otto just, at this point, he can't conceive of, I would never sacrifice, you know, everything I have for someone else.
Yeah. Well, that's that's what Vista wants. Does it bother you that Otto Banner only has 6 arms? Or 6 limbs? Like, he really should be Dr. Ant. I mean, at this point, it's like, he's got 2 legs, 2 main arms, and then 2 vestigial arms that he grows out of his back. I guess you could argue he can grow more out, and maybe he could get as many as 8.
Well, that's what I was going to say. You would assume a Hulk with all that radiation in his system could grow the most arms out of any of them.
But we only ever see him use 2.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, Auto Howlet. I'm not sure about that. Now, then we meet TJ.
Yes.
And TJ's interesting. Because he doesn't seem to be a Tolliver.
At first I thought it was going to be Tolliver, but what was his father? Was his father's name like Torbert or something?
Yeah, he's a variant of Otto.
That's what I'm thinking. Instead of being named Otto, maybe he was named after the father, maybe?
Yeah.
Like Torbert Jr. or whatever?
Yeah. Anyway, and he gets a pretty awful outcome here. But we do see Auto Supreme is coming for them all.
Oh, yeah.
He's got the Doom armor, and he's got the
arms.
The arms. Because, sure, why not?
Some strange magic. So do you think by the end of this miniseries, we're doing like alternate realities, are we going to get finally what we've been begging for, the Otto versus Tolliver fight?
I mean, you hope so.
Mm-hmm.
You hope that there's going to be that universe. Although I hope they don't do what they did with Doom, which is that when he realizes that there's a universe that is better for him, where he made better choices, he destroys it. You know, that would suck the proverbial hindquarter. You know, and that's what I would say there. Speaking of Otto, he's in Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yep, 85.
I do not know what's going on with Max Danger in this. they put her in this weird fursuit. I don't know what happened here, because usually, up until now, she's been in this power suit. I don't think she had pink hair previously. It's very odd.
Well, once again, she could be something other than human, so...
Well, I think, and as I've said, everyone in Beyond, I think, is something other than human. I think everything is here. And I think we start with this because this is an episode of weirdness, because we have a talking goldfish, and then talking sandwiches, and then facing off against Misty Knight and Colleen Wing as good old Ben Reilly comes to the aid. And then Otto and Max Danger have a little tete-a-tete, which then Ben Reilly disrupts. And he defeats Otto technologically, but I do feel he plants some doubts in Ben Reilly. He gives him the file. Because for what it's worth, Otto knows Ben.
Well, and it's like, he's just like, they didn't pick Peter Parker, they didn't pick Miles Morales, they picked you because they thought you were the most
easily manipulated.
Yes.
Which they never told a lie. That's just the truth of it. You have a book you want to talk about, Phil?
Let's see. Got a bunch. You want to do the final issue of Savage Avengers, number 28?
Yes, this is a very good one. Because basically the idea is that they divert Cullen Goth from his path. And even when Cullen Goth is brought by a wizard to face sorcerous things, he still chooses the sword to face Shurma-Gorath. And that was the test. The test was, will you be a warrior or will you be a sorcerer that will consume all things? And then when Conan completes his training of
Cullen Goth,
yeah, he of course is taken by King back to Samaria in time, and Conan's like, no man, Strange promised me money and stuff.
Yeah.
And they do make the point that, Conan, he says, I saw your throne room. You did not have my sword among all your weapons. But then we get, and he says, no, I did have it. It was just in the way. But then when he picks it up, it says, this isn't finished.
This isn't over.
This isn't over, yes. I'm sorry. Yes, this isn't over. In English! Because he knows that language now. And then he brings Conan back to the 22nd century, to the 21st century, just to mess with him, which I'm delighted in. Which means that now we do have our King Conan story existing in the Hyborian Age, but we also have Conan the Barbarians trapped in the 21st century. Can't wait to see how those stories play out.
I love how Kang was like, I've seen various timelines. One, you get a Nova helmet, which that wasn't in that 2099 stuff a few years back, and then he's like, you get the meteor, and you get like advanced and stuff. I'm like, and one he becomes Vandal Savage. Okay,
yeah, basically, yeah. Well, that's the meteor.
Yeah.
It's like he lives forever. That was poor old Redbeard's curse. Did you read any of the King Conans?
No, I did not. I did not have time. No, tell me.
Well, so it's told in two separate narratives.
Okay.
So you have his current narrative, which is him on a deserted island filled with coral made, like all of the dead rise up to attack you every evening, and they're all made of coral and death. And then you flash back to him as King of Aqualine. And we already receive in the first issue, that he's not the King of Aqualine anymore. And then the second issue, we see what's going on, where he realizes, he's raised his son well as the Prince of Aqualing, but his son only has knowledge from books. And so at the very end of all of their warring and fighting, he says, okay, I will not pursue more war against our neighbors just to enjoy myself, but I need to make you a better man. So I'm sending you out now, and when you can return with better with great stories to tell me of how you conquered the land, then you can be King of Aqualane. And that's where we left off in issue 2. So basically we're getting these two parallel stories, which is clearly that his son went out, had adventures, came back and is king, because in the first episode he says he is no longer King of Aqualane. And then within issue 2 you see that the witch who rules the island that he's on says if he survives till morning, we will see if he's the one we've been waiting to. Within this entire concept is Amontoth, who is also a character in this, which is an evil wizard. Again, parallels to Savage Avengers. But, because for poor old Conan, there's always another evil wizard. And his powers have failed him, and they are working together, but at once Conan saves Amontoth, though to be fair, after he had thrown him to the zombies. And now Amontoth, rather after he saved, throws Conan to the zombies again, because he's like, dude, I still hate you. So that was cool.
Oh, yeah. Sounds it.
Another book you want to talk about?
Fantastic Four 39.
Oh, that's a good one. I like Fantastic Four. I like Johnny Storm dealing with his problems.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Bentley's solution to the problem. Especially in the sense that, and I gotta feel that this is very much the backdoor pilot for the new She-Hulk series we're getting.
Yeah.
Which I think comes out next month.
I think it might come out. It might come out next week.
Oh, well, that'd be awesome, too. That'd be even better. I mean, I think we're going to see Judge Payne again in that. And the idea that they have an Omega-level mutant judge expressly because you need someone in a superhuman courtroom to be an Omega-level mutant, which I love the entire idea of that.
Yes, Charlie. Wednesday. She-Hulk comes out Wednesday.
Awesome. So next week we get to see part 3 of this 2-part epic. What did you think of... and honestly, I think this is like 2 backdoor pilots in one. Because we see Dragon Man and Bentley, who... What does he want to be called now, Philip? What does Bentley 23 want to be called now?
The Wizard.
Right. Along with his perfected clone of Whitney Bentley and Dragon Man.
So do you think he actually convinced the Wizard he was a clone, or is the Wizard just like, oh crap, he outmaneuvered me, I gotta get out of here?
I think he convinced him he was a clone, and he probably is.
Oh.
That's the thing, it's like all of the Bentleys, they're all it's clones all the way down, Phil.
Well, where's the original?
Like
Is he dead?
Yeah, probably like for like 50 years. Dude, these books came out in the 60s, man. And he wasn't that young when he faced off against Agatha Harkness, so, you know.
Can you imagine if he died trying to invent some kind of weapon to, like, beat either Reed Richards or Johnny Storm, and he accidentally died?
Well, but the idea was that, much like the great Otto Octavius, he just had clone bats.
Yeah.
And he didn't think... Because that's the real... weakness of the cloning module is that, you know, you assume there is no soul, and I just need to rewrite another brain with my memories, and then we're good. And the problem is that you can't do it. It's not that easy. It's not a 1-to-1. And so when you do that, you open up the possibility of basically everything falling apart.
And what did you think about the Franklin stuff?
The Franklin stuff was really good, actually. Because it does, again, show it's all in Franklin's head.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
I mean, just that whole line, he's like, Beethoven wrote his first concerto at 12. I made a pocket universe before I was 5.
yeah, exactly. And it's just this idea of he knows what he could be.
Mm-hmm.
And, the reality is, I think he's afraid of that. Because I think at the same time, there's this fear of becoming Hyperstorm. There's this fear of becoming that, if you have unlimited power, that could corrupt unlimitedly,
Oh, yeah, I think he's like, however many different avenues I've tried, each time there's something wrong. It's not perfect any time.
Well, yeah, and then he's also seen his perfection.
Yes. Oh, yeah, and then he's like, then Endgame is me saving all of existence. He's like, I'm so far from that.
Well, exactly. It's a lot of weight on the poor kid's shoulders.
Oh, yeah.
It makes sense why he turned off his powers. He turned his on switch to off. But at the same time, much like Ben Grimm, it's the exact same mental block. It's like,
yeah,
I can't deal with the idea of just being who I am as I need to be,
Mm-hmm.
Because what the problem is that at the end of the day, we're all nerds. So when you have that transitional power,
mm-hmm.
but you want to bring it into that human level, suddenly you start overthinking about how, takes this many seconds for a thought to go from here to there. So if something could sever that within that time, then you could kill that person. But of course, Dr. Manhattan would be seeing that as like, oh yes, and here's where they tried to do that. But of course, I could already know that was what they were doing, because I am Dr. Manhattan and I am existing at all times at the same time. And in fact, there's an interesting argument to be made in that he exists in all times and all possible times.
Yeah.
You only see the linear existence of Dr. Manhattan, but there could be a multiversal existence of Dr. Manhattan.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's in all.
And this is where I died here, and this is where I died here, and this is where I died here. I died an infinite amount of times, as many times as I've lived. Because I am all time, and I am Dr. Manhattan. Dr. Manhattan, an underutilized character. Okay, despite what DC may have recently done with them. Here's a book, Ms. Marvel. Number 2. Speaking of weird stuff, so at the end of the last episode, she found herself in a Bollywood musical, being attacked by Loki, who's getting married. And there's a part of me that feels like, I don't know, like they're trying to set up some kind of change to her, because they've repeatedly made the statement, you used to be able to shapeshift into different people, but you can't do that anymore. Which is annoying. Because, of course, at first she could turn into a physical representation of Ms. Marvel. And later we saw her shapeshift into other people. But now they want to say that's not her thing. And I want to know if they're trying to set her up to be a purely energy-based power set in the future. But within this, we do see that as she is also seeing herself across many multiverses, and right now she has to face her shadow self from another universe. So that should be interesting.
I just wonder if they'll line her up more with the Disney stuff. If they're just going to say, "Oh no, when you were able to stretch and change your shape, that was like your beginning form. Now you've evolved to this energy, this energy form."
We'll see.
Yeah,
and maybe that's what. And I get the feeling that's what they're doing there. I don't like it.
Yeah,
but we'll deal with it.
Did you read The Thing?
Yes, I did. I have that in Wastelanders Doom. Which do you want to talk first?
Let's talk Thing, because
you read it too.
Yeah. Is there something going on? Am I missing something? I still don't know what's going on in this book.
So at this point, so the basic premise is that what's her name? The lady is like a goddess being who created everything, and I don't know who the matriarch is that sent the champion, but obviously they did.
Or is this woman testing him, maybe?
Well, it's something. What is this?
Because I don't know if it's like part of the test too, but I don't know. I mean, I guess they've done this before in the comics, but like just the cops always in this series always wanting to like shoot him or arrest him and stuff. I'm like, doesn't Ben Grimm the one who gets along with everyone because he's like the regular guy?
Well, this is set, and I got to remember, this is set in the past.
Yeah.
This is kind of a more 1960s, 1970s thing.
Yeah.
Where people are still getting used to him. What's your question, Tristan? That's the original auto there, the first one. So that's Classic Auto, that's Banner Auto, that's Blaze Auto, and that's Howlett Auto. Yeah. Well, you can know because the first auto, his dad is fat, and the second auto, his dad is skinny. And Brian Banner was relatively, he was svelte. Just so you know, not all fat guys are bad people. Some bad guys are svelte people.
That's right, man.
Yeah, but I do feel like the woman, what's her name? I forget what she calls herself, but she clearly has more going on than appears.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that Ben has figured that out. So that's interesting. So yeah, episode 3 was pretty good. It was decent. Like I said, it's not as exciting as most things stories are.
Yeah.
I think setting it in the past and wandering through this whole complex story hurts it a bit, but overall I'm still committed because I love the thing, and I think they have a better story to tell than the first two. I think the first two kind of were episode builders. By this one, now we're saying, oh, here's what the story is, and we can move forward with that. And my final book this week is Wastelanders Doom. This is based off of the Wastelanders series currently being discussed on Stitcher. If you have Stitcher, you may want to download these things. There's not an Old Man Logan. There are 2 Logan stories. There is an early 60s Marvel story. But then they went to the Wastelanders. The first one was Star-Lord in the Wasteland. The second was Hawkeye in the Wasteland. And right now we have Doom in the Wasteland in comic book form. And Doom has his little part of the Empire because, honestly, I have no idea what Doom's point is in any of this because it's one of these moments where you think his idea of he wants to make a paradise for the world, but he's willing to burn the world to make a paradise, except it's not a paradise. It's kind of lousy, and what really is the motivating force of this is there's one part of his empire that isn't on his maps. And he knows someone is hiding this part. And he makes the point that there is in this place that there is crops and there's bounty, but the rain in this place was stolen from a plane in Spain in 1893, so you see this, you see Doom going through 3 trials. He has to walk past the pleas of his mother, who is held by Mephisto. He must, what does he have to do in this one? I forget what this one is. He must face something from his past that haunts him, which is Valeria, the woman he loved, who he also later skinned. So, Doom's a real prince. And then finally, they're looking at all of his memories because he has to sacrifice one memory to be lost forever. They offer him the memory of the birth of Valeria Von Doom, or Valeria Richards, his goddaughter, and he says, no, that's too precious. And finally, he chooses the memory of the person who carried him back to his father when he was hurt. And they say, so yes, so the first time a stranger offered you help, that is the memory we will steal from you. He says, what? What are you talking about? Because he just thought it as this moment of weakness, whereas actually it was the one time someone showed him kindness, and now it is removed. We get the big reveal that Agatha Harkness is the source of all this power. He wakes her up, and she basically takes Mordu's power from him. Mordu is the one that's been running the whole show. Mordu is dead, and then basically we find out that the woman that Doom meets in the beginning is Sophia Strange. And she's like, I have no interest in that book, Doom. Do not take that book. That is a stupid thing to do, Doom. I know you are a stupid person, but trust me, everyone who touches that book has had a bad day. Says, well, certainly I can handle the Darkhold, because I'm Victor Von Doom. Ba-ba-ba-ba-da-bop, cha! And that's the end of Doom's story. Next week, Grey Widow, so that's going to be fun.
Yeah, I was looking it up. I've been meaning to listen to these, and I haven't. But yeah, I looked. Because you can listen to it through the Sirius XM app if you have an account too, kids. I guess there's a Star-Lord, Wastelanders, Hawkeye, and Black Widow so far. So.
Yeah, Black Widow must have just started that.
Yeah, I think it looks like Star-Lord and Hawkeye look like they have
if you get the premium, you get it early. If you get the I don't pay for premium. I just listen to commercials.
Like I said, I have Sirius XM, so it looks like I can listen to that. But yeah, the Star-Lord and Hawkeye have like 10 episodes. Looks like Black Widow's just on episode 2 right now. So
yeah, but what I will say on all of this is, the Darkhold. That just Doom is just an idiot.
Oh yeah, he's always trying to steal power.
It's made by an elder demon, and at this, it's like the Serpent Crown. It's like we all know Set made it. We all know they made it so they could return to Earth. It's like the entire cult of Cthulhu. Like, to me, my entire idea of if it was an actual cult of Cthulhu, they just sang lullabies all the time.
Well, he always likes trying to steal dangerous stuff. I mean, the Beyonders' powers. I mean, when he originally tried to steal the Silver Surfer's powers, how do you know Galactus isn't going to show up and is like, why are you touching my stuff?
Well, and I think, quite frankly, Galactus did. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair in all of this, I think it's like, stop it. Stop it, little monkey. Little monkey, do not grab that. You are a monkey.
Oh, not even a monkey. It's like, a little fly. Hey, stop it.
Yeah, well, I mean, we want to be respectful. He is still a simian.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's just, and to be fair, in some of the best Fantastic Four books ever written, they do make the point that, when the true forces of the universe deal with Doom, and they say, well, you see, normally when you act out, we just call it a monkey lashing out that got a little power temporarily and it's fine. But you actually raise to another level when you punch the Watcher. It's like, dude, those are our Watchers. You don't do that. And that's why we're punishing you.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you want to have all this power, but you are still bound by the rules. And there are those who write the rules and those who live by the rules. And the fact of the matter is, they're often the same people. Because we all should live by the rules.
Okay.
And that's my PSA. All right, Philip. Philip.
Yes.
And I know, I just want to make this point here right now. We here at Superconnectivity, we used to be powered by the largesse of the great and powerful Master Doom. That time has ended. And now we here in the Capes and Lunatics Network, we are on our own. But you listeners, you are our democracy. You are the voices that power us. And we want to hear your voices. We would like to hear you at capesandlunatics@gmail.com. That's capes and lunatics, all spelled out, all one word, @gmail.com. Write us with your thoughts on this episode and every episode on the Capes and Lunatics feed. Call us at 614-382-2737. That's 614-38-CAPES. Call us, Leave us your thoughts. Leave us your voice messages. Let us know how the Capes and Lunatics Network can serve you best. And if you would like to serve us, if you would like to help us, go to Linktree, linktr.ee/Capes and Lunatics. Go to that site. You will find our merch, which you can purchase, which we adore you when you do. You can find our Patreon page, where for as little as $5 a month, you can get video, seeing our topless movie reviews, our superhero movie brackets. Will Fantastic be declared the worst superhero movie of all time? Or will Puma Man come from behind and be the Cinderella story of bad movies? We will decide, and you can help if you go to Linktree, that's linktr.ee/Capes and Lunatics, and help us make that decision. And in the meantime, Philip, is there any way that someone would like to reach out to you separately, or are you covered by all of that?
I mean, I'm covered by all that, but I mean, I'm on Twitter and everything at Nightwing PDP, so yeah.
There we go. So follow on the Twitters, follow Nightwing PDP, at Nightwing PDP, because that is Philip D. Perich, Philip Podcast Perich. The D is for podcasting. And in the meantime, you can always write to me in that old-fashioned email way, the way our mothers and fathers and aunts and uncles and ancient ancestors once did, at superconnectivityblog@gmail.com. That's superconnectivityblog, all one word, @gmail.com. And you can also follow me on the Twitters when I live tweet things like Naomi, 9 o'clock on Tuesdays, and Legends of Tomorrow on Wednesdays. I'm not sure when it comes on, at Charlie Esser. That's CharlieEsser. Look for the 2 E's in the middle.
For quality.
Thank you, Maz. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you once again for coming to us, for listening to us, for connecting with us. Please join us again next week as we once again super connect again. Good night.
Good night. And remember, the Devil's Reign crossover continues on To Know Where's the Fear, the Spider-Woman podcast, and Tomes of Evil, so.
I love a good crossover.
Hello, I'm Anthony.
And I'm Dr. Issues.
And we're hosts of Capes on the Couch, the podcast where comics get counseling.
Superheroes don't always get to go home happy. That's where we come in.
We offer psychiatric and mental health analysis of comic book characters.
So check us out at capesonthecouch.live and across all social media platforms at Capes on the Couch.